The fundamental issue here with the rapture is that there is all kinds of controversy that surrounds the rapture. Now, a couple weeks ago, we talked about the true church versus the Christendom church. And we talked about that the true church is the church that, in my belief system, will be raptured one day, and that the Christendom church is the church that will lead in the Antichrist and go through the tribulation. And we distinctly drew the line between the true church being the Christians and the Christendom church being the people that go to church but really don't get it. Okay? And that is biblical. That's right out of Revelation and in several other books in the Bible. Jesus talks about it specifically in John's Gospel. And the reality is that we have people that attend church that totally get it and are totally sold out for Jesus. And we have people that attend church that just are part of a club. And their club can be really mean sometimes, or their club can be really nice sometimes. They got all kinds of different forms of what the club is, but the reality is it's a club. Their pastors are there to serve them and to serve them only, and so on and so forth. And then that is what the Bible calls, that's what we call Christendom. The Bible doesn't call it that, we call it that. And it's honestly totally making religion your God. So it really doesn't have anything to do with Jesus. It really doesn't have anything to do with his work on the cross. It's not centered on the cross. It's centered on self. It's centered on self-righteousness and so on and so forth. And it's nothing but bad. And knowing that we have an all-loving but just God, because if he really is truly all-loving, he has to be just. He has to judge correctly in a loving way, the perfect judgment that is love. Because we have that, we know that God will separate through, that he will sift through all of that, and that he will take away the ones that are his true church. Now, I'm going to give you a couple different theories. You've got your notes today with some charts and some fancy things that lays out the different theories in the rapture and so on and so forth. I will tell you exactly where I stand tonight. I'm not going to sit on the fence tonight. I will tell you what my belief system is in this. Denominationally, I do fit with our denomination. That's good, because if they ever watch this and I said I didn't, that would be bad. But hey, what do you do? So the reality is the rapture really going to happen? And then if the rapture is really going to happen, when is the rapture really going to happen? Is the rapture going to happen pre-tribulation, like pre all the bad 7 years? Is the rapture going to happen just a little bit into tribulation? And is it going to take just the sold out, the totally wicked Christians and leave the ones that are a little bit carnal or a little bit lukewarm? Or is it going to happen after the tribulation, where all Christians will be tested and go through the tribulation, and then they will be raptured, and all the end times events will all be happening after tribulation? The reality is that we have theological beliefs on this, we have systems of belief in this, but actually they're all loose. The only one that I actually believe to be the tightest one is pre-tribulation, is that before the time, the 7 years of tribulation, that the church, the true church, will be taken away. So we're going to get into all of that, of why and so on and so forth. But I want to start off with giving you a whole bunch of scripture about the actual event. So what you got to do tonight is you got to write like crazy, okay? I gave you that sheet, but have a notepad, write a whole bunch of stuff down. And this is simply based on, at the very beginning here, the simple fact that Jesus said, "I will come again." No one argues this. No one argues that scripture says that it doesn't say this. Everybody agrees that Jesus is going to come again. Anybody that is Bible-believing, takes the Bible literal, believes that Jesus is going to come again. Well, here's a few things that he said. In John 14:3, Jesus said, "If I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to be with me, that you may be where I am." In Acts 1:11, the angels said, "Men of Galilee," I love this passage, I've preached on this passage. "Men of Galilee," they said, "why do you stand here looking into the sky? This same Jesus who has been taken from you into heaven will come again in the same way you have seen him go into heaven. I love that. Why are you standing there just looking up and doing nothing? Get moving. Come on. He's going to come again. You might as well move forward. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15:51, we shall not all sleep, but we will be changed. In 1 Peter 5:4, Peter says, and when the chief shepherd comes, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away. Paul says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 1, verses 6 to 10, wait for his Son from heaven. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13 to 11 said, the Lord shall descend. 1 Thessalonians 5:2 says, for you know that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. It's evident, it's very evident if you believe Scripture that Jesus will come again. Now, the book of Thessalonians was written simply because they had been told that Jesus had already come again, that the second coming had already happened and that they had already been left behind. And so Paul writes 1 Thessalonians to correct this and say that's not true at all, that we are still waiting for Jesus to come again. So Thessalonians gives us a view, especially Paul's view of the rapture, of exactly how this is all going to play out. So if you want to study this in depth a little bit more, you're going to spend some time in Thessalonians. The word rapture does not appear in the Bible. You will not find it. You can look for it like crazy in the passage, the Olivet Discourse that we dealt with last week in Matthew. Everybody tends to look for the rapture in that. Jesus didn't talk about the rapture in that discourse. The word rapture isn't used at all. Now, it's there because of the Greek word harpazo. And harpazo can be basically interpreted as caught up, stolen away, taken away. And so the Latin word, rapture, is where what we use to interpret when the scriptures were brought into the Latin language from the Greek language. That's the word that they used. It's a little bit more of a kind of an aggressive but a positive way of being caught up or taken away. Like if somebody comes and steals you, that's not good, right? The police are going to come and so on and so forth if anybody notices. Wouldn't that be sad? Like somebody steals you and no one notices? Anyway, moving on. It's happened. Yeah, well, no one noticed. But here's the thing. So rapture comes from the Latin word. That's why you're not going to find it specifically in our scriptures. You're not going to find it in the Greek text. You're not going to find it in the Hebrew text. You're not going to find it in any of that. You got to go into the Latin text, and then we've taken the Latin and translated that into rapture or caught up. A lot of theologians lie in the pre-trib camp. A lot of theologians lie in the pre-tribulation camp. But I want to look, before we get too far into that, I want to look at a couple more passages of Scripture about the simple fact that the rapture is a celebratory type of language, that the rapture is a positive thing. I've said to you guys that I pray quite often, come. Like, seriously, Jesus, come. I was watching the Grammys last night. Did anybody watch the Grammys? No? Do you know that one of the most popular songs out there right now, and this, you're going to think I'm an old geezer and a loser and all that, but one of the most popular songs right now is by a very attractive young girl who performed it last night half naked with a whole bunch of half naked women around her, kissing her, because the song is called I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It. And the flesh side in me is like, cool. And the Christian side in me is like, ugh. Like, seriously? This is what my kids are going to grow up seeing as pop culture, as popular, as something that's positive? An attractive girl flaunting her stuff, dancing on stage, singing, I kissed a girl and I liked it, and I hope my boyfriend don't mind. That's the exact lyrics.